This is Amud Yomi Gemara in Shabbos Daf Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph, and we began the new Perek Kira, in which we're trying to figure out at what level one is allowed to leave food cooking as we enter into Shabbos. We began a Mishnah that the Mishnah touched on the core of the whole din, which is that there's a problem with leaving something on a fire. We're worried you might come to stoke the flame. We saw that from the inference, from the crux of the Mishnah, that the Mishnah discussed that if you got rid of the coals, that if you covered up the coals, or if it's an item like kashu, gvava, straw, and stubble that you can't tamper with, because tampering won't make it any better, then we said there's no problem. We're in the middle of trying to figure out the first shayla of the Gemara, which was when the Mishnah said lo yitin, you're not allowed to pot, literally, until you do gerufa v'ketuma, until you get rid of the coals or cover them up. We're still trying to figure out whether that is a din of chazara or a din of shehiyah with its massive ramifications. So in the very top line of Lamed Zayin Amud Aleph continues the Gemara, la'olam ima l'chol la'achzir tanan, because we just brought a raya that it must be shehiyah. It must be shehiyah, because if it was chazara, we had a problem that the Mishnah, Beis Shammai, Beis Hillel, the double case is repetitive. Says the Gemara, you know what I'll tell you? Lachzir tanan, and there's a few critical words that have to be inserted into the Mishnah. If we have an oven that's fueled with stubble and straw, machzirin aleha tavshil, you're allowed to do chazara. Then what? Then it turns into a coal. Then we're worried you're going to stoke it. Then lo yachzir. Then you're not allowed to put something back into that flame, into that oven. But to do shehiyah, on which case? In the case of gefes and eitzim particularly, and then the Mishnah continues, what are you allowed to do? Shehiyah b'shamir milchamin of lo tashel, silver cham v'tashel. V'chazara da'amri loch. And this din of chazara that we're suggesting, lav divrei koli, elo machlokes Beis Shammai Beis Hillel, that also is a machlokes. Beis Shammai nadav lo machzirin, Beis Hillel aimrim af machzirin. So the Gemara deflects the raya that it must be talking about shehiyah by answering chazuri mechzor v'achi gatani. Toshema domer Rav Chalva yomer Rav Chama bar Guri yomer Rav. Lo yishanu, this din that we're discussing in the Mishnah of placing food, returning food, shehiyah and chazara, teaches the Braisa lo yishanu elo al gaba. Avoletoicha, if you're going inside the oven, aser. Then it teaches Rav Chalba and Rav Chama bar Guri Rav it's aser. Parenthetically, before we get involved in the Gemara's raya, this din of l'taycha is aser, is a din that goes all the way through Shulchan Aruch. What does it mean, l'taycha? Is a good question. It has to do with their ovens, which were different than our ovens, and that's why it's probably not relevant in most of our scenarios. But from this din proves the Gemara. Now we have a raya the other way. If you're going to tell me the din in the Mishnah is chazara, then it makes sense. I know Deshana Beitach al Gaba makes sense to have a differentiation between being inside oven or on top of it. But if you're going to tell me it's talking about shehiyah, who cares? Mali al Gaba answers the Gemara, no raya. Misabris Rav Chalba Areisha Kai. Who told you Rav Chalba is going in the Reisha? It's going on the final din in the Seifa. When the Mishnah said the Beis Hillel af machzirin, that you can even do chazar on that line particularly. Also, and therefore we have no raya. Tashema smakim of the first line is Gaba. Tries to bring another rayish tekiras amatimois. Two twin ovens, achas gruva ktuma, v'achashenu gruva ktuma. One is garfikatum, one has no coals, and one does. Mashal Gavi Gufa Ktuma, made a Mashal Gavi in a Gufa in a Ktuma. Kedusha here only in the one that's Gufa Ktuma. Umaid Mashin says the Bryce, and what can he do? Shia Beishamir Loy Klom Beisamir Muhammad Avlo Tavshil. Akar. Now, what happens if you are Akar, if you got rid of everything from the inside of the oven? Then Divrei Akol Lo Yachzor Divrei Rabbi Meir. Rav Yehuda Omer teaches Rav Yehuda Omer, excuse me. Beishamir Mechamel Tash, V'Zomer Mechamel Tash, V'Zomer Noyim Avlo Machzir, V'Zomer Af Machzirin. So from this din proves the Gemara, I can tell you a raya to the question. Says the Gemara, every time about Shehiyah, then our Mishnah could be Masisaman Rav Yehudi. Then it comes out that our Mishnah will be mimicking the din of Rav Yehuda that said in the case of Akar, we have a machlekes Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. But says the Gemara, Yali Amr Lachzer Tanam Asisan Mani, our Mishnah is no one. Loy Rav Yehuda, Loy Rav Meir, Ira Meir, Kashal Beis Shammai Bechadol Beis Hillel Betarti Rudi Kashi Gufa Ktuma. So says the Gemara, we l'chayra have a raya that the Mishnah is referring to Shehiyah. Responds the Gemara. 1 second, before we go to the Tarot of the Gemara, we have to go back a moment. I read something wrong. Apologies, something didn't make sense. Again, go back. I apologize. One more time. The case of Shtei Kirais Hamatimais, one Gufa Ktuma. What's halachic? Do Shia on the Gufa and Kuba, not on the other one? What do you got to do with Shia? Beis Shammai said nothing. We said Cham Lo Tavshil. Akar, I said it meant to get rid of everything from inside the oven. That's incorrect. Akar, if you take the pot out of the oven, Divrei Akol Lo Yachzor. So the Brisa explicitly says no chazara according to Rav Meir, and Rav Yehuda differentiates between Cham and V'Tavshil. So says the Gemara. So now the Raya is much easier. If we're talking about our Mishnah L'Shais, that's Mamish Rav Yehuda. It's mamish a din of Rav Yehuda that once you're going to take out the pot, everyone's going to agree you can't do chazara. But if you tell me it's lachzir, then our Mishnah comes out to be like no one. On that responds the Gemara, no, really I can tell you imalach lachzir tanan. I can tell you the Mishnah is talking about chazara. But Tana didan serve like Rav Yehuda bechada pagli galei bechada, and our Mishnah partially goes to the Rav Yehuda. Shav like Rav Yehuda bechada becham and b'tavshil. Holds like Rav Yehuda one din in the din of chamin and tavshil. V'noylinu machzirin. But what does it argue about? To pligalei bechadi l'tran didon serve l'shes afal bishin gar v'kata martan allowed shehiyah. Even though it's not gar v'kata, Rav Yehuda serve l'shes nami gar v'kata v'ni loy loy. And Rav Yehuda allowed shehiyah only in the case of grufa v'ketuma. And with that, the Gemara sort of ends. The Gemara goes on to a new shayla. Now, did we answer our shayla is not perfectly clear, which is part of the machlokes in the Rishonim. Some level, we did have a raya that our Mishnah is talking about Shehiyah, and we're going with Rav Yehuda. But at some level, we responded that no, even be talking about Chazara. The Gemara leaves the Shaila. The Gemara transitions to a new Shaila. Ibayilu on the second Y line. Mau lismay ba. We have an oven, you didn't do grufa ktuma. We let it put something next to lean it next to the oven. Taicha the gaba also, do we say inside and top of it is also? But avalismay next to it is going to be shaper dam. You'll double if there's no din. So Tashema the Gemara was bringing a raya from our previous price. So Shteik, here's the Matima Zach's Gufak Tuma, Shen Gufak Tuma, Shen Gav Gufak Tuma, Vaf Al Gav the Kosal Kale have Lamidach. The oven that's Gufak Tuma is next to Samuch. The oven that's not Gufak Tuma. And even though it's getting the Kosal Kale have Lamidach, it's getting some heat from it, we're still allowing you to do it. Says the Gemara, no right. Don't shani us given the middle shalu ba'avira, because maybe since it's elevated, the air affects it. There is not a raya to regular case of Shia. In this case of the Shtei Kirais Hamatimos. So Tashema one last shayla, one last raya. Dem Rav Safar Mechir Ketama v'nis labsa. the coals went down and they flamed back up, then you're allowed to do smicha. So we see a raya that even when it comes to putting it next door, kitata in. We see a raya that even when it comes to leaving food next door, kitata in, like kitata loy. Well, Taimech says the Gemara, no raya. Noilem mimenok dikatani kitatin like tamaloi. Elatana noilem mishamachziri nachatani sa'achanami tanasecha mishamekaimin. So it's not necessarily a raya because maybe it only said it onto the other case. Says the Gemara, it makes sense, our Mishnah. You're night of one place. You're machzir to one place. So then we can explain, it's kavaldik, it parallels. It's two sides of the coin. Elahacha, but now what's your raya? Soimchin. Soimchin is next to the oven. Soimchin b'chad makoim. Mikaimin b'chad makoim. Why would the Mishnah do that? And therefore there is no raya. We'll stop over here and then we'll continue in the next year. Mayavi Allah coming along with the maskana of these shaylas.